everyone, welcome to another episode of Revernos. In today's video, I'll be showing you how you can create a one-time onboarding sequence for users of your application. The way this works is when a user opens your application for the first time, they'll be brought to a welcome screen, and then they can have a screen that tells them more details about the application, such as how to use it, and then there can be some terms and conditions, and then once they finish that, they can agree to the terms and conditions and then enter your application. On every subsequent relaunch of the application, they will not see the onboarding sequence. They'll only be brought to this home screen. So this is what we'll be creating in today's video. Let's dive right in. So once we've created our application in Xcode, the first thing we need to do is we need to go to our app file, and we're going to create a variable that allows us to track whether or not the user has ever gone through this onboarding sequence before or not. So in our app here, let's just add some white space to keep this nicely formatted. We're going to create an AppStorage variable. So we'll need the @ symbol and then AppStorage. This will allow our variable to be persistent throughout multiple openings of our application so that we can track over time if they have or have not completed this onboarding sequence. We'll call this has seen onboarding. We'll make this a private variable. Has seen onboarding. It's Boolean, it will just be true or false. We'll set it equal to false because when they first open the application, the user has not gone through this onboarding sequence yet. And we'll set this to true later once they have, and then we'll just keep track of that to not show them the onboarding sequence if they've seen it before. Now we're going to use this variable to determine what screen do we actually show our users. So we'll delete this content view and we'll replace it with an if statement. We'll say if the user has seen onboarding. I don't know why that didn't autocomplete. Then the screen we'll show them is our home screen view, which we haven't created yet, but we'll get there. And if otherwise, so if they have not completed the onboarding, then we'll show them the onboarding view, which again, we haven't created yet, and we'll do that in the next step. We'll create our home screen view and our onboarding view now. We're actually just going to convert this content view into our home screen view. So we can go ahead and change that name here. And then also make sure in the preview you change it there so that you don't get an error. We're going to delete this image. And then here, we'll just put a placeholder that says app name. This is just a sample app, so you can call it whatever you want. And then let's just say welcome back here. And then just to do some formatting, we'll set this equal to a large title so that the app name is displayed prominently. The next thing we need to do is create our onboarding view. To create our onboarding view, we'll use a struct, and we'll call this onboarding view, which will contain the view, so it has to conform to this view protocol. The first thing we'll need in this function is a variable to keep track of where we are in our onboarding sequence. So we'll create a state variable, and this we'll keep it private, and we'll just call this current step. And we'll set it equal to 0. We'll use integers to keep track of where we are. Make sure you spell everything correctly. And then the next thing we'll do, we'll create the body of our view. So var body, colon, which will be some view. And then we'll actually put the contents of our view inside of here. So we're going to create a tab view, which allows us to horizontally swipe between our different views. So to do that, we'll create a tab view. And we'll use our current step to keep track of where we are. So make sure you pass in your current step variable. And then that's all we need in here inside of these parentheses. And then we'll add a set of curly brackets. And the first view that we'll have here will be our welcome view. Our welcome view is where we'll just say welcome to our application, and then we'll have an intro view which describes how the application works, and a disclaimer view where users can read the terms and descriptions. We haven't set up a lot of these views. We'll do that in the next step, but I just want to get this onboarding view set up so you can understand the structure and where all of these views will come into play. So we'll pass in our current step, which will be our current step variable. And that's what we need for our welcome view. And we'll give it a tag, which is that integer identifier that will be 0. The next thing we'll do is we'll repeat this for our intro view. And so we can just copy and paste this. So go to the next line, and then we'll just change welcome view to our intro view. And then we'll change this tag to 1. And then the last view we'll have, which will be our terms and conditions, I'll call that our disclaimer view. This one will be a little different, so we won't copy and paste here. So we'll add in our disclaimer view, which once again, we haven't created this view yet. So you'll get an error saying it can't find this view, but don't worry about that. We'll create these views next. So once again, in our disclaimer view, the current step will be our current step variable. But then after this, we're going to add an onComplete clause. So once someone makes it through this view, we need some code to run. So we'll have onComplete and then some opening and closing curly brackets. And what we're going to do here is we're going to set our has-seen onboarding view equal to true. What this will do is make it so when we get to this point in our application, this has-seen onboarding will be set to true so that the next time the application is relaunched, the user will not be presented with the onboarding sequence. One thing I did forget to add at the top of this view is we need another state variable here. So we'll have another AppStorage, has-seen onboarding. And again, this will be a private variable, has-seen onboarding, which will be Boolean and set to false. And that should get rid of the error that we had on this line. The last thing we need to do in this onboarding view is after this closing parenthesis here, we're going to add a new line and we'll set that tag equal to 2 so that we know which integer numerical value will refer to our disclaimer view. And then on the other side of that next curly bracket, we're going to set our TabViewStyle just to let Xcode know what style do we want our tab view to have, and we'll do a page tab view style and make sure you have parentheses at the end of that. Now we're going to create our welcome view and our intro view, and for that we can just copy the home screen view because the code will be pretty similar. So we'll create our welcome view first. So we'll just change home screen view to welcome view, and then we'll just change our text to say welcome, and we can get rid of this welcome back text here. Once we have this, we're going to have a button that says next inside of our VStack. And this button will just take us to our next view. So make sure you have those opening and closing curly brackets for your button. And then inside of our button, we'll set current step equal to 1. And we do need to add our binding current step variable up here, which would be an integer. Once we have this welcome view created, we can go ahead and copy and paste this again, and then this will be our intro view. So we can just change the name to intro view, and then we can just say learn more about the app. And instead of doing a large title, we can just simply do a title to make that text a little smaller. And then our current step, instead of having a 1 here, we'll have a 2 here. The last view we have to create here is our disclaimer view, which will have our terms and conditions. So we'll go ahead and create our disclaimer view. We're going to need 2 variables at the top before we can proceed with this view. The first will be our binding current step variable, which will be an integer, which is what we're using to keep track of the view. And then we're going to have this onComplete, which will just be a callback that returns a void. This will actually go inside of the button that we use for the user to agree to the terms and conditions. And then this onComplete will actually go up to our onboarding view and run this onComplete here, which will set our onboarding to true. All right, so now in the body of our disclaimer view, once again, we'll have a body, some view. For text, we can just say terms and conditions. And then we're going to create a scroll view. Your terms and conditions will likely be fairly long, so we're just going to have the scroll view so that the user can scroll through them. After that scroll view, we'll have an opening and closing curly bracket with some text, and we'll just say terms go here, ... This text will want some padding here just for formatting, and then we'll set this equal to disabled, so set disabled to true here. And then lastly, we're going to have a button that says agree and continue, and this button will simply run our onComplete, and then we'll just add some padding there just for formatting purposes. And that is it. Now we can go ahead and run our application and see what it looks like in the simulator. Now we're in our simulator. We have our welcome view, which welcomes users to the application. We can swipe to the next view where we have our intro view, where you can just include some details about your application so the user can be more familiar with your app. So you can show them more about the app or how to use it here. Then if you swipe again, we have our terms and conditions, which then you can then swipe and actually view the terms. And then at the end, you can agree to the terms and conditions. And if you were to tap that, it takes you to your welcome screen. Now let's go to our home screen here and then go back into our application. And you can see that actually takes us back to our home screen. It does not repeat the onboarding sequence that we just created. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to be posting a lot more iOS tutorials, and we're going to be doing some deep dives into Pygame with Python and talking more about Python data analytics. And I'm also considering adding some more cloud computing content to the page. So just like, comment, let me know what type of content would you like to see in this video, and I will try my best to accommodate. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.